Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Freebeat, where I post new music-related content every single day. So if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Let's get started. Today, I've got the PO-20 Arcade with me. This is a pocket operator focusing on the fabulous arcade cabinet sounds of the 80s, and today we're going to be talking about the coolest feature on this pocket operator, which is the chord mode. I've gotten a lot of requests to do just a video about the chords, so I figured it was time to dive in and show you guys how this actually works. You can find a whole bunch of videos on YouTube of people composing awesome tracks on the PO-20. However, I feel that the chord mode is kind of unexplained just in terms of broad concept. Not a lot of folks really show how it works, so that's what we are going to do here. Let's dive right in. So all the normal features of this pocket operator function just about the same as any of the others. So you've got your 16 different sounds. And of course you can change the parameters with them with knob B. Same with the drum sounds. And then on a lot of the sounds, knob A will control the notes. However, the PO-20 has chord mode, which adds a whole new dimension to this pocket operator. So to demonstrate it, we're actually going to build a little drum pattern first. So let's just select a kick here. We'll just go boom, bap, boom, boom, bap. There's a good hi-hat. There's a good snare drum. 2 and 4. There we go. Nice basic drum pattern. So if you're familiar with pocket operators, you know that you can chain up to 16 different patterns. So we just created one pattern. If we hold the button, we'll see that we have it in slot 1. Of course, we can copy and paste this into different slots, and you can change all those. And what you can do that's very cool is you can chain patterns together. So let's say we have 4 different patterns here. Let's change these up slightly. Let's put an extra snare drum on this one. Let's put an extra kick on this one. And on the last one, let's do maybe a hi-hat fill. There we go. So now pattern 1. Pattern 2. Pattern 3. And pattern 4. And the way you would chain those is to hold the pattern button and then select, while holding the pattern button, any of the patterns you want to play. So we can hold the pattern button, we can say play the first one twice, the fourth one once, the second one once, the third one twice, and then the second one again, and then the fourth one again. Then we hit play, and it'll play them all in that order. Here comes the fourth one, it'll tell you which one we're on. There's the third one. Here comes the second one, and the fourth one for the last time. And then it resets. You can chain up to 128 patterns on the PO-20 Arcade. It's really, really powerful when you consider the size of the instrument. And of course, a pattern can also have all of the melodic instruments on it, so you can really have some long songs on here with 16 different patterns available and 128 of them chained. You can get some real cool stuff going. Now, why am I telling you all this about the pattern mode? The chord mode works in almost the exact same manner. So when we hold the chord button right here under knob B, all of a sudden all 16 of these pads turn into a chord. There is a handy chart created by someone on Reddit. I forgot the name of the original poster, but I will go ahead and link it in the description. It shows you all 16 of the buttons and what chords they represent. I actually, off to the side here, have them printed out on a piece of paper. So we've got D minor, E sustained, E major, F, G, C over G, E over G sharp, A minor, C over A, D minor over A, D major over A major, B over A, C major, and D major. And the way you select the chord is by holding the chord button and pressing a button. So let's select D minor, number 1. So really quick, to make this simpler, go ahead and hold down pattern and click the first button. We're going to just select the first pattern, no chains here. Now remember, we selected our D minor chord, so let's hit play. We don't hear anything. Why is that? We need to turn the chords up. So make sure both of your knobs are as far to the left as they can go. Play your pattern. You're going to hold the chord button and slowly turn knob A up. in comes that D minor chord. So when you're holding the chord button, knob A becomes the volume of the chord. Knob B becomes kind of a sidechain feature. So if we turn it all the way up, you can hear the chord is pulsing to the beat. This can be really cool at fast tempos. Now, how do we change the chord? Well, hold the chord button and select what you want next. Let's go to C major 15. It will automatically change when the measure, the pattern, resets. So that's cool and all, but how do we chain them? Well, the same way we did it in pattern mode. So we hold the chord button, and let's go D minor. We're still holding the chord button. Let's go a second measure of D minor, and then let's do 2 measures of C major, which is button number 15 down there. Now, of course, we hit play. We're not going to hear anything. We turn it up by holding chord and the volume knob, but we can hear it's already on C major. That's because it's still playing the chords in the background even if the volume is muted. That's kind of one of the weaker points of this feature, is you can't start a phrase or a pattern with the chord up. You kind of have to press play and then immediately hold chord and turn it up. There's our D minor. There's a measure of C, a second measure of C, back to D minor. Now back to C. You can chain up to 128 chord changes, much like you can chain up to 128 patterns. Very, very powerful. One thing to note, though, is that chaining patterns is completely independent from changing chords. So it doesn't tie a chord change to a particular pattern. So we could go, let's say pattern 3, for example, press play, turn up the chords. Even though we're on a different pattern, the chord chain is still going to jump from D minor to C. It exists completely on its own outside of the pattern changes, which this is pretty cool because you can do some really advanced stuff. You could have 4 measures on pattern 1 and then 4 measures on pattern 2, and then go back and do 4 more measures on pattern 1 and 4 more measures on pattern 2. You could go D minor for 4 measures, then C major for 4 measures, and then do something like go to A minor, which is pad number 9 for 4 measures. But remember, it's going to jump back to pattern 1. So we will have heard pattern 1 in D minor and A minor. And then let's say we could jump to something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let's just go down to F, which is number 5 there. Let's listen. And then it resets. So you can see how powerful this is. You can chain your chords completely independently of your pattern chains. Very, very cool. One other thing to note about chord changes is that it affects the sound of sound 1, which is our bass. So you can't actually change the pitch of your bass. It completely depends on what chord you have selected. So in this case, this is a D. Now we can select the octave, and we can change the tone, but we can't change the pitch. So it's always going to be the root note of your chord. And it will automatically change as your chord chain goes on. So just to make this quick, let's do 1 measure of D minor, 1 measure of C, and then an A minor and an F. So just 4 measures long. We're just going to select pattern 1. We're going to select the bass sound, and we're just going to put 8th notes in there. I'm not even going to turn the chords on, but because the chords are playing in the background, it's going to constantly be affecting the bass. Listen to this. As you could probably tell, that was only one pattern, but because the chord chain was happening in the background, it, like I said, affected the bass. And then of course you can change the parameters in real time. So it can be limiting because the bass note can't actually change. It just depends on what chord you have. You can't go in there and change it like some of the other sounds. But it's nice because it always provides a nice backing, a nice root to where you are in your track. So, one last note. Let's go find another sound. Here we go, our lead on number 13. So on the arcade, you can use knob A on most melodic sounds to change the pitch, and it'll tell you what pitch you're on. G, A, B, C. Now some of these pitches are dependent on what chord you have selected, especially between major and minor chords. So let's go ahead and hold chord. We're going to just select D minor. So of course a D minor triad is D, F, and A. So if we set this to F, it's going to be an F natural. So let's go ahead and just put it in there, just eighth notes matching the bass. So we've got our D minor selected, we've got a full set of eighth notes here, and this is set to F. So this is going to be an F natural because we're in D minor. So you can hear that's an F natural. But what if we were to change the chord to a D major? All of a sudden, we would have some clashing because the third of a D major triad is an F sharp, not an F natural. So the PO-20 already knows this, so watch what happens when we instead change it to D major, which is pad 16. So we're going to do one measure of D minor, one measure of D major. We're going to let these chain together. Listen to this. The PO-20 knows, and it automatically corrects that F natural to an F sharp, so it stays in key with the rest of the chord and the bass and the song, depending on what chord you have selected. There are a few other notes like that. I'm not going to get into all of them. You'll just have to kind of play around and figure it out. I just wanted to put a somewhat comprehensive guide out there as to how to use the chord feature because it's so powerful, and I feel there's not a lot of material out there on it. So I hope you guys found this one helpful. If you did, go ahead and leave a like on the video. If not, you can leave a dislike. That's okay too. It doesn't hurt my feelings, just makes me try that much harder next time. Either way, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell. If you've got questions about this, please go ahead, leave a comment down below, and I will get back to you about it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out the links in the description down below. We'll see you next time. Bye.